Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to another interview with the ENFP Mail. Today, I get to interview Alexander. So, Alex, welcome, man.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
Alex, can you tell us your full type, please?
Yeah, my type is ISTP. I'm double feminine, Ti-Se, consume, play, sleep, and no blast.
No blast or blast last?
No blast.
No blast at all. All right, gotcha. All right, and what did you think and how did you feel when you got your results back?
I don't know. I was a little bit shocked. Not very much, but I thought maybe I had an NI. That's what I thought. Yeah. And so it took me a little while, but once I kind of get used to it, I thought it was right on. Yeah.
Okay, so you thought you were TINI then? You thought you were like the jumper version?
Yeah, right. I thought I was TINI, and I thought I was also audio. Because I figured I knew I had some kind of problem with the sensory, but I thought maybe that meant I was intuitive savior with masculine sensory or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay, now that you've had a chance to process it and you are not TINI but TISE, does it make more sense now for you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it makes more sense. For sure. I can see how I am not a planner at all. I can see how, I'm definitely not a blaster, which I didn't think I was either. I thought maybe I was like sleep, consume, play. And so that was like the main thing. I just knew I wasn't a blaster, and it makes sense that I had consume at the top and blast last because of how much of not a blaster I am. Yeah.
So one of the jokes with your specific animal stack, the consume, play, sleep, is the joke in OPS is like you guys can talk forever about nothing. So do you relate with that joke kind of?
Yeah, I'm just trying to reach for something, and I'm doing the visual and tester, like looking out into space and just trying to grab something to talk about, and I'm never getting to the point.
Right. Right. Especially I guess with the consume and play, those two are on the OE side, right? Like the gathering side. So you're obsessed with gathering as opposed to the organizing.
That's right.
Can you talk about your struggle with organizing known information?
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem whenever I have to talk, because in order to talk about something that you have to have that access to the known information. And so when I'm trying to talk and teach a concept, let's say, um, like maybe I'm doing now, I'm just not getting it. I have to like try to find it on the spot. So like I'm always reaching for like improvisation. Like I can do that if it's like the play in the moment kind of thing. But as soon as it comes to relaying what I already know in like a way that people can understand it, that becomes a problem.
So for your day job, do you have to teach? Is that a part of your job or is not?
Not really. I'm a developer and an IT consultant, so what you'd expect maybe. So there's not a lot of teaching. I mean, there is some, but no, not much.
So you have a very introverted job then.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your consume first. Your consume is ST. I'm curious to see what kind of things that you consume. Like, are you consuming more factual news like stuff, and or like what kind of stuff do you consume? Because I notice with different consumes, they tend to have a. It's not like they don't consume everything, but people tend to gravitate towards the consume of their specific consume type. So yours is ST.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, SC gathering, like all gathering is the same. What happens is like you're gathering all the same stuff, but how you look at it is different with your different deciders. So a TI might look at it differently than an FI. But I will say that like I used to read a lot of fiction when I was a kid, and I stopped doing that as an adult. And all I read when it comes to books is like, self-help or instructional things, like real life things.
did you enjoy reading fictional books, or is that something that you're not interested in anymore? Like you kind of lost interest in it?
Yeah, I did enjoy it when I was a kid, but for some reason I don't as an adult, or I don't have the attention span anymore. Um, it's easier to go to the computer and get your info that way.
Right, right. I guess if you did read fictional stuff, that would be a good way for you to tap into like the more NF, because it's like a fictional fake world, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And I'm sure I would enjoy it, but it's some person, I don't. That's not what I gravitate towards.
right, right. That makes sense. So SETI and SEFI are super different, just because of the filter, right? The TI. So
Yeah.
with the TI, what are you doing with the information that you've consumed? What are you doing with your TI?
Well, I'm trying to make sense of it, right? It's ST, like trying to make sense. How does it work in the world? So yeah, I mean, obviously, I am trying to find out if I like it or not. If like, is this appealing to me or not? But um, there's definitely that thing of I don't get to really like it unless it makes sense too. So I think that's a big difference between TI and FI. Like if FI likes it, it likes it. It just goes straight to it. With TI, there's like this process that gets in the way of trying to rationalize it first.
Gotcha. So it sounds like whatever you consume, it must have a practical application. Otherwise, it's something that you're just gonna lose interest very quickly.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, to a degree.
Now, your play is different. Your play is SF, which is,
Yeah.
some people interview said it's like it's it's an interesting one because I find it very useful, but it's also considered to be like the dumbest play because it's like just having fun doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like that part first, and then we'll talk about the other aspect of the SF play? So, when you
Mhm.
do use the SF play, you have it as savior. What's going on there?
Yeah, a lot of dumb shit. um, no, I don't know. I think, I mean, if you were to break it down, like an ST would, with SF, with SF play, it's like SE and FE. It's looking around at real things and trying to connect, like on an objective level, with the emotions. So it's like what people like in the real world, pointing to that. So it's a lot of references to shows, I think, and like references that people get and that people like. So I tend to grab things and try to go like, hey, I like this thing. Do you also like this thing? That type of thing. But yeah, very very silly. It's also double feminine for me.
Right, right,
So
right.
it's like a very silly. It's not very serious. Yeah.
Do you also do what Gary Vee does? Like he kind of tracks what's popular, what's trending around the world. Is that something that you
Yeah,
do?
I do that to a degree. It's not well, the Effie isn't my savior, so but I definitely do. I notice things like I know the patterns, or not the patterns. I guess I know the SC of what people actually like, but again, I'm not responsible for it. Because I only care about the TI, so I'm not responsible for it. But it's more like I want to know so that I don't miss out on something for myself. It's not like I'm trying to provide that experience for others.
So you gather enough of it so you're not out of the loop. Like just you're
Exactly.
like you stay
Yeah,
current.
yeah.
You stay current.
I
Uh,
definitely stay current. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. And yours is double feminine, so I guess if someone tells you what's popular, it's easy for you to just accept it as like what is popular because it's double feminine. It's just like you're very movable in terms of like
I'm very movable in terms of like people liking different things, like understanding that like it doesn't really matter to me if people like something that I don't like.
yeah.
I'm just like that's what they like. I'm also really conscious of, um, if I like something, I'll know if I like something weird, and I'll have to like I always give like a disclaimer, like I know it's weird, but I really like this one thing.
Right.
It's like because I am aware of it in that sense.
Right, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could tell when it's outside of that range of what's good or popular or what's acceptable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's also interesting too with like masculine and feminine version of the SF play. Like the masculine one is like I'll tell you what you should like, but yours is like anything that people like, it's fine with me, so it's like big difference. Let's cover your sleep next. So your sleep is NT, and your sleep is double masculine. So how do you? So I guess this is why you thought you were an ITI, because it was the double masculine really makes a big difference. Like that's like right in your face, right? Can you share how you personally perceive your NITI, double masculine NITI?
Yeah, that's what I say is like that's what's real to me. That's the world that's real to me. Like, and that's kind of how I analyze the masculine and feminine thing for myself to understand it. If you have a masculine function, whatever that is, like you see that as kind of like solid and unmovable. So that it kind of becomes like the ground that you stand on. Like that's what's solid. It doesn't move. So to me, like the NT world of like abstract, I don't know, planning patterns, whatever that is, it feels real. And then the real world, the SF world, it doesn't feel real. It feels like it doesn't really matter that much. If that makes sense.
Right. I guess because it's double masculine, it's having that gravitational pull for you to place your attention on that as opposed to the double feminine one. So because it's NT, it's also problem solving, and because it's sleep, it's extremely personal. So can you talk about if someone were to tell you how to figure something out, when the figuring out aspect is something that you find very personal, like how would you react if someone were trying to shove to you how you should solve something?
Oh yeah, I definitely have my way, my way of doing that. And yeah, if somebody criticizes it, I can get a little bit testy. I had an experience once where I was helping somebody clean up, and I was doing something nice for them by helping them to clean up, and they started criticizing the way that I was doing it. So I was like, well, if you don't like how I do it, you can do it yourself. That's kind of a good example of how I can get a little bit testy with that.
So from my experience, the blast function or animal, sorry, can offend the sleep animal. So in your case, your sleep is NT, therefore the blast that would offend you would be NT blast. So that would be like the INTJ, ENTJ, ISFP, and ESFP, right? Well, although ISFPs and ESFPs don't blast often, so it's gonna be mostly the ENTJ and INTJ. So when they do blast you on how you should figure something out, is there a part of you that gets like punchy, like there's like a pushback? How do you personally?
No, and I'm a decider too, so I have people problems, and I had an experience last year with somebody who was, I believe they were like, I think they were an INTJ, and they did just what you said. They criticized the way that I was doing things, and I got really offended, and it became a big reason why I had to leave a job, actually. So yeah,
what I find very ironic is according to Dave and Chan, that one of the type that is the most common that comes through is ISTP for them, which is kind of ironic because the NT blast would offend the NT sleep, right? Like for me, like the SF blast is the one I find the most like irritating,
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that because my sleep is SF, it's like, don't tell me how I should be, because that's my identity. So for you, it's like your NT sleep is your identity. So for you, it's like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that I saw you review that Jordan Peterson book, 12 Rules of Life, and you didn't like it.
No, I like that book.
Oh, you liked it? I thought
it was the Darren Brown book I didn't like.
No, sorry, that was the one you didn't like. See, I have feminine sensory, so I don't remember.
No, I like that. The Jordan Peterson book was fantastic. It was 17 hours long of audiobook. Usually I'm like, oh fuck, 17 hours is way too long. But I'm like, oh, I surprisingly enjoyed this one. This is a good one.
Well, you connected on the NE then.
I did, yeah. The N in the SI actually I connected with. Like when I was hearing it, I was like, people were criticizing him and they're like, oh, he's scattered and he's talking about too many different stuff. I'm like, no, from any perspective, it made perfect sense to me. That's how a book should be. Like I get so annoyed at NISE books where it's like one NI concept and then I'll show you different sensory examples of how this concept works. And I'm like, fuck, I already know how this works in your first chapter. I don't need to read the book, So, but
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
to each their own. Like if you're NISE, it would make sense for you to enjoy those kind of content. Obviously there are ones that are done right. Anyhow, you have decider problems. So let's talk about your decider problems now. So according to OPS terms, the biggest fear of any IP would be tribe hate. So let's start with that. Talk about your fear of tribe hate.
right. My fear of tribe hate. Yeah, I guess it's the fear of tribe hate and the fear of judgment is a thing that I definitely feel that kind of push me away from doing certain things that I want to do. But I'm afraid to do them because I don't know how people will react to them. Because if they get mad, if they suddenly start to reject me, then I don't really know how to handle that. So that's been the challenge for me, I think. As far as the tribe hate goes, there's a kind of like cautiousness that comes with it.
So for my recent interviews with IPs and EJs, it is clear that IPs and EJs both are afraid of getting kicked out of the tribe. Like that is the biggest fear, like getting kicked out of a tribe. But the way you guys deal with it is different. Like the EJs need to help everyone so that they become valuable and they stay in the tribe, while the IPs feel like they need to be like the top person, the highest status possible, and the most significant, so that they can't get kicked out. Which is kind of like an irony in a way, because if you try to be the top person, then you kind of alienate everyone, and then you get kicked out or you get judged, right? It's like a weird paradox, like that's why the double siding kind of kicks in, where you're like, no, you can't go too high up because otherwise you're gonna get knocked down, right? How do you
definitely.
How do you personally see that in yourself, where like, yes, you're trying to get as high above the tribe as possible, and then there's like a bad feeling that's been built up as a result.
Yeah, well, I see it in myself and just how much time I invest into myself and just learning about new things. It's like kind of consume play way of doing things. Is just keep learning and learning, and you're just like putting everything back into yourself. And people need you in different areas, and it's hard to show up for them. Yeah. When all you want to do is go back to you. And so I see that a lot in myself. And there's also like a kind of competitiveness that I have, where like I don't like knowing that somebody else is better than me in the room, and I mean that real sincerely. I don't like it, and I don't always show it because you don't show it to people, but it's there for sure.
So what happens when you recognize that someone is better than you? Like what happens there? Like do you start seeing that person as your rival that you need to topple?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah. And there's also like I'll deny it in my head. I'll be like somewhere in my mind I'm coming up with reasons why I'm better, why I'm smarter, why I'm like whatever. So there's like that subjective aspect of like you're just denying it. You're trying to come up with your own reasons for why you're better.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you try to reason and you kind of realize, I'm like, damn, this person is better. Fuck, like have you ever gotten to that point before?
Oh yeah, all the time. But then there's still that thing that's like, nah, I know somewhere. There's a reason somewhere. I'll find it.
Like you'll find the person's weakness and you can kind of beat them on their weakness, kind of.
Yeah.
But when you do recognize that they are better than you, at least currently, is there a part of you that also respects them?
Yeah, definitely. And the kind of sick thing about the people that I respect is that usually the people that I respect are IPs, and they're like the IPs that get away with being the worst kind of IPs. So when I see like an IP who's all in on IP, I'm like, damn, I want to be like that guy, which is not a good thing for your personal development, really, because we all know the problems that being all in on your sabers brings.
Do you also have respect for the opposite of that IP, the extreme EJ that is like that everyone sees as like the general of the group, and someone that's like obviously taking the role that you're never gonna have,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do respect that too, because I'll see something that they're playing a game that I'm not playing, and
Right.
I can be like, I can relax. I don't have to compete with them.
Right.
I'm like, you're doing really good. I can't do what you're doing. So I'm really glad
Yeah.
that you're around.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting. So
Yeah.
the people that you like are the ones that are either the extreme opposite or the same as you.
Yeah.
And because either A, they don't think they're taking a role that you're never gonna compete in, and it's all good. It's all good. It's like, yeah, you know what? We can work together. It's fine. And then the other person's like, oh, I want to beat you. Sure, like
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've worked with people who are my exact type. I've had people like that at work, and it feels weird. Like it feels like we shouldn't both be here. We're doing the same thing. Like why did they hire two of us?
yeah, that's funny. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they did say that in OPS you tend to hate people that's the same type as you because then you're fighting for the same role, right? And
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, it's easier to work with someone who's your opposite because then you're taking different roles and there's no competition, right? It's more like
Yeah.
complementary as opposed to competitive. But what about like the weird cousin types? Like yes, you're an ISTP. So what if they have an INTP? So it's
Mhm.
like it's kind of like you, but they see things a little bit different from you. So there's no direct
Yeah.
competition in a way. I mean, there is, but there isn't. Like it's a weird thing. Like how do you perceive that? Like your cousin types?
Yeah. Like when I say an INTP, I'm like, I go, yeah, you're pretty much right on, but like I think you're too much of a nerd. It's usually the thing if they're any TINE. I'm like, you're going too nerdy, and that's how I see how they're different.
So they're not a
It's the same.
competition then because they're dweeb.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like they're competing, but on the TI, but there's something different there. They're not really playing the same game, but yeah,
Yeah, but because their SE looks weak, it's not as a big of a competition.
yeah. But with the INTPs, I do feel like I know somewhere deep down also that they're smarter than me. So
Yeah, the
that's always a problem.
INTP is considered the smartest type, right? So
Yeah,
how do
for
you
sure.
feel about that then? Because that's gonna hurt your ego a bit,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate it, but it is what it is. Yeah.
right? Fair enough. Yeah, because like yeah, if you look at all the richest people in the world, the smartest people, they're all double feminine NIT sorry NE or TINE, right? So
Yeah, any or any TI. Yeah.
yeah.
Or
Double
like
feminine.
Elon Musk is TISI, double feminine.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he has double activated NT, right? So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, Bill Gates, yeah, like even Jeff Bezos, who's an ENTP, but it's still that somehow that NETTI with the double masculine saviors is like,
Yeah. It's got the consume sleep blast stack too.
yeah, that's unstoppable. Um,
Yeah.
okay, knowing that the types that tend to be considered the smartest tend to be like
Mhm.
a mope, like a sleep consume. But your consume play sleep. Um, but the good news is your sleep is double masculine, so you have very strong. It has a very strong presence.
Mhm.
How can you see yourself competing with like those other types? Knowing that you do have the advantage with the play. You could gather from people too. It's not just like you're stuck with like just looping in your head. How can you see that play as an advantage to those other types?
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit more extroverted. I notice more of the tribe thing. I think that it's a little bit easier maybe to handle having the Effie last when you do have the play. So I think that overall it might be easier for me to kind of get out of my IP-ness. If that makes sense.
That sounded bad.
I
IP-ness.
know it did. um, but yeah, uh, I don't know. I feel like it's just easier to I don't know, maybe get to my demons uh, in the end. Like it might be.
I find that with play, maybe you have less tribe hate.
Yeah, because I will engage in like the small talk with people, and try to be a pleasant person, even though even if it feels wrong, I think I can still get there a little bit. You know.
So FE is often considered like the liar function. Can you
Yes,
can you talk about
I'm a
that a bit?
liar.
Can
Yeah,
you
I'm a
talk
big
about that?
liar. Yeah. No, I think having FE but being an IP with TI Savior, um, Effie is a liar function, and I don't want to use it. I don't want to be a liar, so I'm very like critical with myself on like, God, I had to lie again, um,
Right.
but I'm doing it all the time, of course.
What compels you to lie? Because your TI is telling you to be truthful, right? But
Yeah,
then the FE is like the opposite. So there's like that pull, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. That's the thing. That's
Right.
like the main thing, and it might not just like I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't want to put you out. I don't want to cause any conflicts either, because it's like feminine Fe. Um, if I start up a bunch of conflicts, like if I'm too direct with people, um, then you get all of that tribe anger and hate that I don't want. So you
Would you
lie,
say
so you lie so that you can continue to do your Ti selfish game.
right?
Yeah.
So would you say when you lie to people with that FE and you don't want to hurt their feelings, would you say you're just projecting your own fears to people? Because like your fear is judgment, right?
Yeah.
So if someone were to do that to you, be critical of you, then that's essentially you being judged, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want people to judge you, so you don't want to you don't want other people to feel like they're being judged. Is that kind of like what you're doing in a way?
Yeah. I think you're right about that. Um, um, I don't have any good examples, but I think that's definitely that sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say you being energy dominant also makes that FE even extra liar-ish? Because like you're not info dominant, right? So the accuracy information is not going to be the top of your priority, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I don't want to have that argument about like finding the information and making it perfect. I don't want that when I'm in an interaction with somebody. Like I just want it to be like fun. I want it to be entertaining for everybody. And so when it gets to that information dominant game, like that, you can't really lie if you're trying to get to the truth, and that's the whole point, is like the getting to the truth. But that's not what I'm after, really. So
I guess it depends on the intention. So if you want to interact with people, it's usually because you want to have fun with them. So there's no need to tell the truth
yeah,
because it's not supposed to be the truth. It's not a truth game. It's like, hey, it's all good and fun. Like the vibe, you're exchanging like energy and stuff.
yeah. I know Shan talked about something about in a recent video, I think, um, where you tend to have like these kind of bullshit conversations with people where you're not really listening to them, where you're just going like like I just want to get back to work, I want to do the thing. And that's a good example of a time when I would lie. It's like I'm not listening to you, but I'm like pretending that I'm listening to you.
Right.
I think if I had a little bit more blast and a little bit more of masculine energy with that blast, I think I would probably like cut people off and be like, "Leave me alone, I'm working." But I don't do that. I lie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. um. So because you have FE at the bottom, it's like a weird paradox almost. Like so, you're an ISTP, so
Yeah.
seeing the tribe perspective is the hardest thing possible for you. But because you do have FE, and they said that FE can see FI, can you still see the FI even though you have FE at the bottom and it's feminine? Or is that something that for you it's completely a blind spot as a result of being an IP?
I think so. I think, and I watched a lot of your videos, and you're FI, right? So sometimes I think like you're really not enjoying talking to this person. So I don't know. Maybe.
You're probably right for some of them. It depends on the person, of course. Like, so
Yeah.
uh well, there's such thing as the art of conversation. And once you've interviewed a lot of people, you can tell which person is like not the most exciting to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, some people are going to be harder for you to talk to anyway because they're type, they don't have play or whatever.
It's like functionally wise, it would make sense if that was true. But I've
Oh,
never actually, from my experience, that has not been the case.
oh really?
It's really been the person, or
Okay.
like I can interview two of the same
Mm.
type twins and everything, and one person would know how to talk to people and one wouldn't. And you know, and it really depends on, I guess, their environment. Like
Okay.
environment plays a big role, right? Like, what country you're from, who you hang out with,
Mm.
and basically your growth, if your growth mindset or not, or how full of yourself you are, because some people are really full of themselves, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's like a different factor. It's like a whole host of different factors. So I would say it's not completely tied. Even for me, it would definitely be easier for me to talk to someone that like consume sleep or sleep consume, like a double introvert person.
Okay.
So on average, it's easier for me to talk to those people, but not always. There's always, like for example, for you, I've interviewed other people of your type, and it's been completely different. You're from Sweden, right? So
Yeah.
are you from Sweden?
I am from Sweden. I lived in the U.S. for about 5 years, but I'm back in Sweden now. I'm born here, and I came back.
I see. Yeah, I feel like for you, you kind of absorb some American accent into you, so you don't have like the
Yeah.
pure thick.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
It's there. I can hear it, but
Yeah,
it's not pure anymore. It's like a mix now. You
for
know.
sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you talk to like Americans, they would not think something's off. Like they wouldn't think you're European. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, my accent's probably a little bit weird too. I lived in Maryland, and people there talk weird anyway. So
Oh, really? Really?
yeah.
How do they talk? It's like,
Oh God, how do they talk? Well, they have the classic example is they have like water. You don't say water, you say wooder. If you really get into the deep woods of certain
yeah.
places, like wooder. What else do they say? Like the Baltimore accent is pretty distinct. They don't say Baltimore; they say Baltimore, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of good examples, but you can find a video on YouTube of some kid saying the phrase "earn, earned, and iron earn," and it just sounds like earn, earned, and iron earn, and it's really like that if you go to Baltimore.
So, what made you go to the U.S. to begin with? Just trying to get some context from you.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. No, my dad he married an American woman, so I moved there to go live with him
Oh, I
after
see. I see.
my parents had split up and everything. So yeah,
Did you like living in the U.S.?
yeah, I did for the most part. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more of an like authoritarian culture, I think,
Really?
than Sweden in some
Really?
ways. Yeah.
How so?
Uh, I don't know. Maybe there's just more blasters around. I don't see a lot of blasters around here.
Sweden is an introverted culture, right? Like
Yeah, it's
it's
very
kind of like
introverted.
it's like that's the first thing I noticed when I went to Sweden. Is
Yeah.
like people is like my personal space. It's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like don't come near this like big personal space, right?
Yes.
But I guess in Americans, it's more friendly, I guess, more close, but also more authoritative, as you could say. You know.
Yeah, and I don't know what if it's like a numbers thing, if there's more of a certain type living in a certain place,
Right.
or if it's just like there's a dominant theme of like one type gets more valued in certain cultures. Might be that kind of thing too.
Well, I do see how culturally it has impacted you because you're pretty introverted for consume play person. A lot of consume play people can be quite extroverted, but you're more in the introverted side.
Yeah,
So so I can see that being more of a cultural impact. Because I'm pretty sure I interviewed someone of your type that was American and they're more like extroverted. So
yeah,
so I'm just yeah, definitely the culture. I guess you could say the blaster culture. I guess if you're in the US, it's kind of like they praise you for being a blaster. Maybe in
yeah. I think
Sweden,
so.
they don't praise you for that. That's like a negative thing. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it feels that way. I don't know if I can prove that, but feels that way.
yeah, I mean, it's just a vibe, right? And like you live in both cultures. Like for me, I live in Canada.
Yeah,
So when I go to the US, the biggest thing I
yeah,
notice is that they're not as polite as Canadians. Like no one says excuse me or thank you.
mhm,
I'm like, huh, that is very weird. Because in Canada, everyone's very polite and friendly. So
yeah,
but I still like Americans. They just don't say those pleasantries. Um, so maybe it's like a Commonwealth thing because I think if you go to the UK, it's pretty similar too. Like
yeah. That's right. It's the
thank
Queen's
you.
influence.
Yeah. So Commonwealth, yeah, exactly. Uh, so, but do you feel like because you live in such an introverted culture, that self-expression is also kind of pushed down. Like it's not as not
Yes.
as celebrated. In US they celebrate like you being, you know, like being attention whore essentially. Like in the US that's big time celebrated, right? So all the TIs can be as big of an asshole as possible, and that's completely
Yeah.
cool, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least in theory, that's how the U.S. is, and yeah, there's a lot of. I know I just said that America was more authoritarian, but I would say Sweden is more conformist. So that's
Sweden's more
probably true.
conformist.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So would you say that's good for you personally as like your specific
No,
type? No.
no, I don't think so. I definitely feel like I'm very strange, uh, and I don't get to express it in the way that I would maybe in
So
the U.S.
so you would say then that living in the US as your type felt more liberating, that there is like a sense of more like freedom of expression that's kind of celebrated.
Yeah, I think so. And the US is such a big place with so many different small little countries inside of one country
Yeah.
that I think you can find your niche a lot easier. There's not too much variation around here. So,
So what kind of niche would you be seeking if you were to seek your own niche?
God, I don't know. Um, I'd probably go live in the woods somewhere,
Right.
to be
But
honest. Yeah.
isn't that Sweden already?
Yeah, so maybe I'm just full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like I remember I went backpacking in Europe and there was like a Swedish guy, and I was in Slovakia in
Mhm.
Bratislava, and then there was a Swedish guy who was very like, I hate people. My ideal world is to live in the woods. And I'm like, why do I keep hearing Swedish people telling me that they want to live in the woods? You know?
God, I don't know.
Then I'm like, why are you backpacking, staying in hostels, and hanging out with people? Then you're kind of contradicting yourself. So I'm like so confused, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so the one thing I find very interesting with the Ti-Fe axis,
Mhm.
like yes, you do know what you want, but you don't know what you want emotionally. Can you talk about that as like being an ISTP? It's like I find it to be like the weirdest paradox, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. I think that like the difference between somebody with FI and somebody with TI is like they both want they'll both look at something and they'll want something. But with the TI, there's that whole process, that whole filter that has to go through. It has to make sense. Or, um, and that's what gets us excited is if something like makes sense and clicks. We can make the blocks fit. And so I don't think that there's any difference besides that. And then there's that whole thing too of being a thinker. If the emotions get in the way, you have to push through it anyway. So I think I'll like a lot of things, but then I'll reject them because I have to get something done or whatever. Hmm. Um,
So
it's yeah.
it seems like from like a logical, like, you know, building up your career or building up your wealth, that TI would be more effective because you're going to be doing the right thing. That logically makes sense, right? but
Yes.
but from um building a personal relationship with people, it
Mm.
seems like FI might be more clear with that because they know exactly like the vibe and the feeling
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that you would have to do to have that, right? So you're there's always a trade-off depending on which one you lean towards, you know, because one would make you better from a work perspective and also from a career perspective and wealth,
Yeah.
but or even efficiency perspective, workout too, maybe probably from health perspective too, but from a relationship standpoint, then you're sacrificing that, right? uh,
Yeah.
do you see that in yourself with that, you know?
Yeah. And I guess the FIs, they want to go like deep in on the emotion too. Like they'll get the layer kind of effect with the
Right.
introverted. Um, so you can kind of go like, this is the best feeling. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'll do that with reasons, or with the logic. I'll go like, this is the best reason. This is the one that I care about. Um, and so I think if you like, you'll know exactly what you want in a relationship, maybe. Whereas for me with the FE, it's like I'll kind of be able to connect to anything on a more shallow level.
Right.
But I don't have that kind of depth with the emotion.
Right.
That maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong, but that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I could probably be dug deeper, but it's definitely in the right direction. I do think everyone has all the functions. It's just that if it's not part of your 4 function stack, then
Yeah.
you only have, like, let's say 3 layers deep of access to it, because you still know what you want, so that's FI, right? It's just that
Yeah.
you don't process the emotion to that deep level, and then I can still solve, like, math questions and math problems, so I still have TI,
Right.
but I can't do the complex stuff that other people can do. So so you have basic. I can still do FE. I don't have FE, but I can I can pretend to be nice to someone, like.
Exactly. Yeah.
So so everyone has, like, essentially everything, like, I mean, when you gather stuff, you can still gather patterns. That's NE, right? But
Yeah.
can you connect them at deep level? No, probably not. But you can still gather them. So we have everything. It's just the layer of how deep you can get to is limited based on those 4 that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because then obviously that as a human you can't do everything. That's why some person has to be good at one thing. So everyone can focus on that area that they're good at, and then together, yeah.
Yeah. Like you have all the functions, but the extremes of your personality are kind of what define your personality.
Right, exactly.
In essence, yeah.
Right. Can you talk about being a double observer? So the organizing and the gathering, that's not gonna be, like, the worst thing ever for you. Even if you blast last.
Yeah. I do have the single activated NI, so I'm not as good maybe at the NI as I could be, even with the double deciding. And so I kind of thought, I wasn't sure if I was an observer or decider when I was trying to type myself at first, because I was like, well, I have problems here and I have problems here. So what's going on here?
Right.
But once I got my type and I had reflected on it a lot, what I realized is, like, I'll have problems with things, but still I'm the one who's responsible to solve a lot of the things problems. I'm working as an IT consultant and as a developer, so I have the patience for that stuff, even if it really bugs me sometimes.
I think we both share that, like, weird paradox, because, like, for you, your first animals consume and your last animals blast, and
Yeah.
consume and blast are info. They're info or observer animals. And then for
Yeah.
me, I have play first and sleep last, and those are decider. So as a double decider, I have lots of decider problems. They do get resolved. I'm not stuck at them, but they happen more frequently than my type cousin. So for you, with consume and blast, you might have a little bit less decider problems, but the trade-off is you're gonna have more observer problems. So do you see that in yourself then? That kind of stuff is happening?
Yeah, I do think so. Like, I can look at other people that I know and who I can clearly see that they're the deciders, but they're way more in the decider hole than I am.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think that. And yeah, you have an extreme type too. With anytime you have, like, the one coin and the opposite coin is at the very bottom, I think that's
Right.
tough. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're not the pure blood IP. The pure blood IP is like sleep, consume, blast, play, right? So,
Yeah.
like play last, because play is like an EJ animal. So you have it second. So in a way, that's like a blessing in disguise for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not gonna have, like, the extreme issue, like, let's say Mark Zuckerberg. Like, he's like the pure blood, like, is he?
Exactly.
Yeah, he sleep first, right? I don't no, maybe I'm
No,
wrong.
no, he's
No,
TINE. He's
no,
double
sorry.
feminine T. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, he's not the pure blood then. It's someone else. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Um, can you talk about being an energy dominant, being balanced with play and sleep? Like so you expend energy first and then you preserve it. Like, you have breaks, when it's time to either rest
Yeah.
or to process those information inside.
Yeah. Exactly. I really like the observation that Dave and Shan made about energy dominance, which is that they like to work in their cozies, like they like to work in basically pajamas, because they're working and then they're sleeping, and then they're working and they're sleeping, and I can relate to that. I feel like this is my observation, but like info dominance, they like to dress up. you're info dominant. So do you like to dress up for for work and stuff?
I like to be comfortable.
You like to be
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah, I like to work from home where I'm comfortable and like kind of like you.
Okay, so maybe that's kind of a universal
But
thing.
it's not I think it's an EP thing. Because like I feel
Um,
like if I wear those work clothes, it's kind of constricting. So I lose my freedom. So it's
oh, okay.
yeah, it's different from
Different aspects to it.
different aspect. Exactly. It's not because
Okay.
like, like I want to rest and work, and go between very quickly. It's
Yeah, and uh, I, like I said before, I thought I was like TINI or something like that. Like I had to sleep first, but the truth is that I do expend the energy first, and then I rest. So, um, and I really do need to get the rest, because if I don't get the rest, then I get, it all gets, you know topsy turvy. And
what indicator does your body or your mind give you that it's time to rest? Like, how do you know it's like, hey, you know what, time to stop?
oh,
Like,
it's like as soon as the task is done, like as soon as the task is done, or if I've expended a lot of energy on something, I just right away I rest. It's like right away. It's like, oh, we did that. Now it's time to rest. Okay, time to do something else. Okay, now it's time to rest.
so
Um,
what does rest look like for you? Like, what are you what does it look like? Are you sleeping, or is there something else that you do when you're resting?
uh, I'm usually not sleeping. Um, Usually it's some kind of combination of consume and sleep, because I'm on my phone or on my computer, whatever, reading new information. Yeah, but it's
And
just laying down on a couch.
I see. So
Yeah,
you're not necessarily always laying down when you're resting. You could be surfing the net on your computer, and that you would perceive that as rest.
yeah, exactly. Um, it's just I'm not really doing anything, and for me, consume feels like doing nothing too. So
Right.
so that's part of it.
I see. If it's something that's effortless, and maybe you're not even fully paying attention,
Yeah.
that's rest. Like passive consume, or
Mhm.
just laying in a couch or something. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Um, and what about the physical sleep itself? Like, what are you doing there? Like, do you always get 8 hours sleep a night and
Oh
whatnot?
no, I don't. I actually have real problems with insomnia, and it's because I'm doing a lot of consuming usually. Like I said, that it's hard to turn off the computer. It's hard to I don't know, stop thinking. I'm always, and I'm consumed playing, like I'm playing in my head a lot. I'm doing the play in my head. Just talking to somebody, whoever, whoever I'm imagining. I'm sure maybe you do the same thing sometimes.
Right. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I guess that's why you still have a sleep demon, because it's still a demon. Like,
it's
it's
still a demon. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just not last, and you do some of it. But it still affects you negatively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. How I think that's something that is not often talked about, is the third demon. Like it's still a demon. Like people forget it's still
Yeah.
a demon. Just because you're
Yeah.
doing it doesn't mean you're doing enough. Well,
Mhm.
maybe you're just doing the bare minimum. I think that's like the best way to explain the third animal. It's like the bare minimum to get by. Um,
Yeah.
so you said that you have some insomnia. What do you do then on a work day when you have to get work done and you're exhausted because you were too crazy with the consume the night before, and you didn't
Mhm.
get sleep, and now you're freaking exhausted. Obviously your
Yeah.
body's telling you to rest, but you have to do work. So what's like, how do you cope with that?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I push through it. Um, Mostly I push through it, but some days I just, I don't know. I try to find a way to rest. Um, I'll I don't at my work there's a couch, so I'll just go lay on the couch for 20 minutes and just be like, I have to rest for a little bit, and then I just keep working. So
and
I find the space to rest.
and they're cool with you to do that at work?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I mean, I might have to catch up on the work later, but you know, usually it works.
So as long as the work is done, it's not a
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
I see. Is that why you said that the US might be more authoritative than Sweden? Because like there's like more flexibility for you to do this kind of stuff. Because in US, if they see you doing that, it's kind of like, what are you doing? Because like US is like a very high play culture. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might depend on the company too. I think there's probably companies that would, in the US even, that would be okay with that.
Yeah, maybe in Oregon, in the West Coast, where it's like a hippie, like an NF.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that could be your new tribe. Because then you're okay. So I have an interesting question for you. You're blast last, right?
Yes.
But part of being blast last is your NF last. So your NF is one of your biggest blind spot. So the first
Mhm.
question is, do you believe NF first? Because like, as someone that's extremely logical, the NF is going
Mhm.
to be complete opposite. So that's why my question to you is, do you believe it?
Do I believe NF? I would say, yeah, I do believe in NF. um, you see, I'm getting weird now talking about it.
Yeah.
I guess NF, you define it as like the spirit, like maybe something spiritual, maybe something, um, you know, intangible. Would that be fair to say?
It's intangible, but it doesn't change the fact that it makes you feel something that you cannot explain.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I guess the irritation that I have, because I have the ST at the top and then the NF at the bottom. The irritation that I have is when you get people preaching NF, um, who they can't prove anything that they're saying, and so that's always the problem that I have, because you have to prove it or it's not real.
So
But
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
sorry. No, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna ask you, what about the people that can prove it? So Dave, for example, he's lead NF, right? But he has
Yes.
ST third with his play.
Mhm.
And as you can see with OPS, they're saying all the stuff that's happening, but they can actually prove it with, the factual evidence
Yeah.
of it, because at first it does sound like it's woo-woo until someone proved it to you. Uh,
Exactly.
so how do you, when someone does prove NF, do you get mind blown by like, how did they even pick that up to begin with? Because the NF is the
Yeah.
theory, right? And then the ST is the proof,
Yeah. I mean, like Darren Brown would be a great example of that too, because he'll show you exactly how he does it,
Yeah.
and you're still kind of going, yeah, but how did you do it? Even though he shows you.
Yeah. Yeah, he just showed you already, right?
Yeah. No. I want the NF. I want to get there. And for me, like my struggle with NF has been a struggle with um, religion and you know um, God. And so for me, I've had my own kind of process of using my saviors to try to get to the NF. I've been constantly trying to gather in information about different religions, for example, and I've slowly kind of been distilling my own sort of theology. So I definitely I have a belief in God that I didn't have when I was a teenager, and that came from basically kind of slowly getting to that NF using ST, and I guess and NT sleep too, probably.
Why is religion and finding a God important to you?
Well, I don't know if it was important to me, but I had this kind of thing where something triggered in my head that told me to start looking at it. And
Right.
so once I started looking into it, and I just couldn't stop digging, because it's I can't stop with the
Right.
consume and the play, and then all of a sudden picture kind of formed. Um, so yeah, that was my experience with that.
Right. So clearly, the more you consumed it and the more you dug deep into that, the more interested you are in that, in that.
Yeah.
So and then even how you decided to start exploring that, it sounded like an NF thing. It's like there's no reason. It just kind of happened. It's like suddenly you wanted to find out more about this thing.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It was kind of like one of those eureka moments. Like you're not expecting it. You're not looking for it. I
Yeah.
wasn't looking for it, but it came to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to explain what NF is. It's like a eureka moment or like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
holy shit, this is important. Can't explain
Yes.
it, but it's important.
Yeah.
All right. And I like how you use the word you saw something, like you visualize something. So it's your visual, right? So can you talk about you being a visual?
Yeah, well, I'm a tester, but yeah,
Right, no, I know, but
visual,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
like your tester
Just,
visual, the visual.
just to be clear, just to be perfectly clear with the people, because
Yeah.
ST.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I do visualize things, and like if I'm doing math, for example, if I'm just doing arithmetic, I'll see the numbers in my head, and that's how I'll do it. I'll just as if I was doing it on paper, I would do that in my head.
And what about the tester side? Like how are you?
Yeah, that's the one that's hard to define, right? Like even Dave and Shan have a hard time defining exactly what testers do. Um,
Well, recently they had a better explanation with the smell, so
yeah,
which makes sense.
well, I have an interest in perfume, so maybe there's something to that
Yeah,
with the smell thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's a
so
freaking double feminines with their sense. Fuck.
yeah, I guess it's all about the nose.
It is. It's. Oh my god. Like I can't stand that. Like different scented candles and all that shit. I fucking hate it.
Oh, I like that stuff.
No, I fucking hate it. But like I get it. The double feminists love that shit.
Yeah.
Like every double feminine I know is like, who candles and oh my god, I can't stand it. Like give me
Oh yeah.
neutral. I
No,
want
I'm walking up to every one of those candles and going, "Oh, I like this one. I
yeah,
don't like this one."
yeah. Fuck, I hate that shit. But
Yeah.
no, I get it. Like it's like a double feminine thing, like smelling the candles and trying different food and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I try different foods too. Like I'll compulsively try different foods, like even ones that I know that I don't like, because maybe that's like an OE thing too. I feel like I'm missing out if I like something that other people don't like.
Really?
So I'll eat a food like for the sixth time, and I'll be like, oh, I still hate it. Who knew?
I guess that's the lack of FI. It's like,
Yeah,
because the FI is like, let's say a tester FI versus a tester TI. So the tester
yeah,
FI can archive the feeling they got when they tasted something bad. But
yeah,
like
yeah,
with TI, you don't archive it. So yeah.
yeah.
And I like how you said like if the other person likes something and you don't,
Mhm.
then you're gonna try it again to just to double check,
Yeah,
there's no archiving. Like you almost have to connect with the tribe with the FE. So it's kind of interesting.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I feel like everybody likes something I don't like, then I'm weird,
Yeah,
basically.
you're gonna get kicked out of the tribe.
I'm gonna get kicked out for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, cool, man. Well, that's it for my questions today. Before we wrap this up, do you have any last minute questions for me? Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, just where do you see this going in the future?
Where do you see
Like,
what?
what kind of plans do you have for the future with the channel, or maybe with typology, or anything else that you're working on? Do you have any?
Oh well, I changed my channel name recently. I don't know if you saw that. It's
I didn't see that. Was it very recently?
yeah, just like a few days ago. So my channel is ENFP male, but I changed the name to personality trainer. So
Oh, cool, cool.
it's a play on words. My day job, I'm a personal trainer. So I just
Yeah, yeah.
personality trainer. I'm like, oh, that sounded clever. So I'm like, okay, let's stick with that. And I changed my name of the channel because I am not just dealing with ENFPs. I'm dealing with everybody, and I actually prefer that
Exactly.
way. When I first started the channel, it was supposed to be for ENFPs. Later, I realized I'm like, nope, I don't want just ENFPs. I want everyone. Um,
That's
and
great. That's great.
yeah, and number two, I want to do personality from a practical standpoint. I don't want it to be just like talking about theories and definitions. I'll leave that stuff to Benjamin. With the TI and stuff. Like he can do that stuff. Or the other guys that are doing the interviews and having their own OPS channel. Like they got that covered. I don't want to do like the theory that I want the practical, like the step by step. Okay, like okay, you're let's say your FE last. Okay, well, what do you need to do to practice it? Like what are the steps? Step by step.
Exactly.
Like how do you? And then I want to track it too, kind of like in my day job, I'm a personal trainer, right? So I'm tracking. Okay, did this person lose weight? Or one of the biggest things that makes me happy in my day job as a personal trainer is seeing a female do a full pull-up. To me, that is like it brings me so much joy, because less than 1% of the female population can do a full pull-up. So for me, if I can get a female to do a full pull-up, for me, I just made this woman very special. Like she just feels like she is very different. Like no one can touch her. And when you know when you're able to do something physical that a lot of people can't, no one can take that away from you. You know, it's kind of like what you said earlier. And you're looking at other people who you know are smarter than you, and it pisses you off. You know, it's like, oh, you know, it's like you respect them, but you also hate them. It's like yes, I want those females to have that, like, yes, I have something over you. And
so you want to be able to teach people who are IPs how to be an EJ, you know, basically like to give them that kind of power.
I want people I want to give people like a competitive advantage, like or not really, not just competitive, like not everyone's competitive, of course, but like just to set you apart, you know, like maybe the goal is not to compete, but to better your life, you know, because essentially if you use your fourth animal in your fourth function, your life does upgrade like exponentially, right? And there's a lot of facts to prove it. Like everyone who's used their, you know, I'll give you an example, like The Rock, you know, like do you watch WWE or like his movies?
I don't watch it, but I know who he is. I've seen his movies.
Right. So if you watch his when he was a wrestler before he started making movies, guess what he was doing? He was blasting. He was like saying all those clever catchphrases on television, right? You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And now look at where he is. If he never did that, if he was a typical ESTP who did not blast, no one would know who he is. No one would care, right? He's famous for talking. Okay, imagine that. The blast last is famous for talking, right? So what does it say? Like your fourth animal is the answer. It literally is the answer. If you can tap into that, you know, like good stuff will happen. And it's proven day by day, like all these examples, you know, like Tony Robbins' sleep last. What does he do at the start of the day? Well, he has like a sleep routine, like he does like some kind of meditation routine that he does, right? You know,
right, and he starts his day with that, and I think that's a really important thing.
Exactly, and it's NF too, right? His sleep is NF, so he's doing some NF shit, you know, and he's doing that stuff, right? You know, so and there's no denying that as an EJ, he's like one of the top EJs in the world, right? So
for sure.
So that's kind of what I want. I want to like do like I want to interview people still, because I think getting the information from the source is the most important thing. How I'm gonna change it a little bit though, like based on the interviews I used to do in the past, is like the interviews I used to do is like, okay, I'm asking you what your SF, let's say what's your SF play or what's your anti-sleep, whatever, right? But one of the criticism I got was that people are like, Kenrick, you're asking people these questions. These people just got typed. You have no idea what those means. And I'm like, yes, you know what? That's a valid criticism. So nowadays, like I'm asking more personal questions to people, because when I ask you or everyone else like a personal question, then you're gonna give your answer, but your answer is still from your type's perspective, but it's without me forcing that specific animal.
Exactly, you're kind of burying that underneath of your question, you know.
Right. So I'm gonna fish out those answers by asking just like actual questions, but it's gonna be up to the audience to kind of pick up. It's like, oh, that's the NTC, oh, that's the SF play right there. You know, exactly,
you'll get it anyway.
And like that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at for that. And then I want to do explainer videos. That's what I want to do, because I did explainer videos last year, and they did pretty well. So I'm like, okay, and people were like, oh, how do I blast? I'm an ENTP, I don't know how to blast. I'm like, oh, okay, well let's go gather from the interviews and resource materials from alphas, condense them in a short video or like in a video form. And then now you can watch it and be like, oh, I have a template. Sweet, I can practice this. And you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you do when you do fitness, there's a workout program, right? You know, okay, today is like leg day, or today's like whatever day, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, today is like this aspect of SF. Let's say for your SF play, right? I gotta practice. Or like NF blast. This is what I need to do, right? It's a workout, right? So it's like you put in the reps. So for you, you know, Darren Brown style, right? Like NI Effie, right? So if you practice doing that shit, guess what? In a year, you're gonna be so much better. You know, that like NF muscle has gotten stronger, and now you're gonna.
Wow, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and I want to do like explainer videos. So I want to do like an in-depth analysis of someone's personality type, and then put like step by step how to do that. So that's kind of like the general plan. In June, I plan on releasing more explainer videos. So yeah, because I'm there's a bunch of stuff happening between now and June. I can't do it. But
no, I understand.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, and Yeah, I just want to say that I really respect you having your channel and doing these videos. I mean, you've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many have you done? Do you know?
Over 250.
250. Good God.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have my respect.
Yeah, thanks, dude. But but I don't have the most interviews actually. Benjamin is still the king. Like I'm on DE, right? So I like to deflect. So like Benjamin.
What's interesting is I haven't really watched his videos much. Maybe it's because he's an ISTP, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't want I don't want to watch the ISTP. I like him a lot, but I've only seen a few of his videos.
Yeah, I also got I also realized that when I started ENFP male channel. It's like the ENFPs don't want to watch another ENFP. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like that. You always want to watch something that's different from you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I get, but I appreciate your compliments, by the way. It means a lot. So thank you so much.
Good.
All
I'm
right.
glad you can receive the compliment as a DE.
Still not a pure. I'm not a pure DE. I'm a double.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, man, for coming out. Appreciate talking to you and learning more about your specific type. And I think the biggest thing that I appreciate too is like seeing it from your perspective as an ISTP of this type who is from Sweden. Because I've interviewed the American version and it's different as hell. So I really like that like different perspective that you bring to the table. So
yeah.
awesome, man.
Well, thanks for having me on, man.
All right, take care.
I had a good time.